He is currently serving 110 years in prison, having been sentenced for attempted first-degree murder, first-degree feticide, and 3 counts of manslaughter, all on December the 16th of 2003. Mr. Winfree, is this all accurate?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Winfree, your case has been assigned to Ms. Bonnie Jackson. Ms. Jackson will begin our interview process. Would you please answer her questions?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Winfree, how are you today?
I'm doing okay, Ms. Jackson.
Well, I've been assigned your case, so I will start questioning for the board. How old are you, Mr. Winfree?
I'm 45 years old.
And how long have you been incarcerated on this charge?
21 years.
So you served 21 of 110-year sentence. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, obviously, Mr. Winfree, I am going to want to talk to you. The board is going to want to hear from you about the events in this case. So I would like for you to tell us what happened in this case.
Myself, along with 4 other individuals, went to Jack's house and I shot 4 people. It wasn't meant to happen. I take full responsibility for it.
But I don't want to hear about the full responsibility. We'll move to that part later, okay? But
Yes,
I want
ma'am.
to talk more about the specifics of the crime. Because I'm going to be frank with you, and perhaps I speak with my fellow board members. This was a horrific crime.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you come from Houston? Did you drive over from Houston to commit this crime, or did you leave Houston and come to Louisiana prior to committing this crime?
I drove all the way from Houston.
Okay. You drove in that very day?
Yes, ma'am.
And
At night.
what was your purpose for coming to Baton Rouge or Louisiana, rather?
I had been called by a friend of mine to come down because he was telling me that he was gonna get my money back because there was a situation between us at the beginning of that year where I was robbed. So I was coming to try and get my money back.
Robbed by whom?
Robbed by Jack and Mr. Saul were one of the victims, and a couple more other guys at the.
Robbed how?
I was robbed at gunpoint, held in the backyard for 7 hours till the next morning. That happened in February, I believe.
Did you call the police and report the incident to the police?
No, ma'am, I should have.
Why did you?
I had walked away from the incident and just gave up on it and let it go.
Obviously not, though. Was this drug activity, Mr. Winfree? Sounds like this was drug activity.
Yes, ma'am, it was drugs.
Why you wouldn't call the police if you were involved in drug activity along with the victims in this case? That a fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
And so you come to Baton Rouge, Louisiana that night specifically to address this issue. How did you plan to address it?
I had one of my co-defendants were already down here, and he just asked me to come and help him.
Help do what?
He just wanted me to be there, just in case he needed help trying to get the money back on the drug.
What was the plan to get the money back? Right? You're not telling me. You're going to go to his house and knock on the door and say, sir, can we have our money back? I don't think that's It doesn't sound like that was a likely scenario.
No, ma'am. We was gonna eventually try to rob him and get the money back.
How did you end up shooting 4 people and killing 3?
After being back in that environment and thinking about,
But that night, how did it go from I'm going to get my money back to finding the individuals with their hands behind their backs and shooting them in the head? How did that escalate to that point?
well, when we first got there, the guys went in and they tied everybody up to search the house.
You go in,
Went in and tied everybody up and they started searching the house, and my fall partner said, "Here, hold a gun," while he went and searched. And I kept asking questions, asking about my money and give me something, a little bit of something back. And he kept saying, "No, I don't have anything, I don't have anything." And all of a sudden, I shot 3 individuals, 4 individuals.
I mean, they were bound. They didn't pose any threat to you. So what do you mean all of a sudden you shot them? You made a conscious decision to
I
shoot
made
them.
an unconscious decision, man. Something that should have never happened. I should have never came back to Louisiana.
Well, how much money did you get as a result of having gone and confronted these individuals? How much money did you recover?
I didn't recover any money at all.
Killed basically for no reason.
Yes, ma'am. This was a crime that should have never happened. It's tragedy, and it has overshadowed my life since that day.
But you were indicted along with your co-defendants for 3 counts of first-degree murder. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But you were allowed to plead guilty in agreement to 3 counts of manslaughter, 1 count of attempted first-degree murder, and 1 count of first-degree femicide, because the woman that you all killed, or you killed, was pregnant, and obviously the baby died as a result. But you and your co-defendants were facing the death penalty. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you made a conscious decision to accept a plea agreement that would take that possibility off the table. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And is it also correct that the victims' families participated in that process, that they agreed to allow you to enter a plea of guilty to manslaughter to what actually were 3 counts of first-degree murder? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Given that, Mr. Winfree, that you were given that benefit, why do you think you should be able to back out of that agreement by seeking a parole after serving a little over 20 years of a sentence that you agreed to in order to avoid the death penalty?
Man, when the situation happened, I was very young, foolish, and I had no sense of direction. And when I came to DOC, I knew that I had to change my life, so I started getting myself into programs. I got certified, I became a mentor, and I started teaching others.
I understand all the good things that you've done because I have that in my packet. But what I'm talking about is, this idea of the deal was a deal. You agreed to plead guilty, get 110 years in prison, and they took the death penalty off the table. They took life imprisonment off the table. How do you think your action today of trying to void that deal, in essence, after having served only 21 years, how do you think that impacts the victim, their families, the whole judicial process? When you were given such I'm gonna be frank with you, I was a judge for 28 years, and if ever there was a first-degree murder case, this is certainly that case. If this was ever a death penalty case, if one believes in the death penalty, that this is certainly that case. And you escaped all of that by being offered this plea, which you accepted, and now, like I said, a little over 20 years later, you're trying to get out of your end of the bargain. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am, but I'm not trying to get out of the end of the bargain.
You trying,
God has changed my life. And I've seen many guys with life sentences that were told that they were not going to go home at all. But then laws changed that allowed these guys opportunities to get a second chance at life. I understand what you're saying about me trying to get out of the situation, man. Honestly, I'm not. I'm just seeking mercy on the board today. I'm truly sorry for my actions. There's nothing that I can do inside of prison, any achievement that I can get to atone for the crimes that I committed.
how about as far as the victims are concerned? Because there are two sides in this case. Actually, more there were 4 people shot, 3 of them died. They all had families. What about them and how it would impact their lives? At this point in your life, you're only 45 years old. If you were to be released when they agreed not to have you face the death penalty. So what impact do you think that has on them, even going through this process at this time?
I think it's a grave impact upon them because they wasn't expecting to see anything down the road. And I know they have every right to feel the way that they feel because their loved ones is no longer here and they want justice. I understand that. I'm truly sorry for my actions and what I did to cause the pain, hurt, and suffering to everyone.
So you were 24, 25 when it happened?
It's 23, man.
And tell me about your life at age 23. Had you graduated from high school? Were you working? What was your life like at age 23?
I was not working at the moment.
How going school?
I have my GED. I dropped out in the 10th grade, but I got my GED.
Get your GED.
I got my GED in boot camp in Texas.
All right, that was from a crime at Texas, and they sent you to boot camp.
Yes, ma'am. I went to a program. Got my GED and was getting
So
my
why that turning around for you?
Ma'am, would you repeat that?
I said, why didn't boot camp turn things around for you?
It did for a while, and I ended up backsliding and hanging with the wrong people and got involved in a life of crime, something I should have never did. My mama, she taught me, mama raised me up in church, brought me to church every Sunday, Bible studies, vacation Bible school. She brought me up right. She taught me the right way. I deterred. And
Why? I guess I'm trying to figure out why. Do you even know why?
no, ma'am.
When did you start dealing drugs?
At the age of 17, and my life has been unmanageable ever since then. That was the worst mistake I could have ever made. And so many lives have been torn and broken because of my actions. But my mom, my family.
Hang on just a second, sir. We're having some computer problems. So hang on just a second because we can't hear you.
All right.
I love you, bro.
Love you too, man. Thanks.
Please keep your mics muted and refrain from speaking until we get things fixed, please. Thank you. Sir, can we ask you please to not speak during the middle of the hearing process? Muted and refrain from speaking.
Mr. Winfree, can you hear us now?
Yes, sir.
We can hear you as well. You were interrupted, so I'm going to return it to Ms. Jackson to finish her questioning of you, okay?
Okay.
I asked you, how old were you when you started drug dealing?
At age 17,
And how did you get into drug dealing?
I used to see my cousin. He was dealing drugs, and he had cars and women and stuff like that. And that's how I was influenced.
And so you took up drug dealing around 17, and when did you go to boot camp?
I went to boot camp at 17.
And you got out and eventually went back to your old lifestyle, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. I worked for about 1.5 years.
Where and doing what?
I worked at the University of Houston doing irrigation work. And I did labor jobs through a temporary agency. Not really having a trade or any type of education. There was not a lot of good paying jobs.
But when you were in boot camp, did they provide any kind of trade training?
Just exercise. We did a lot of calisthenics.
And they didn't give you any job training in boot camp?
No, ma'am.
What was the crime that you went to boot camp for?
They had violated, my probation had been violated because
That's my point. What were you on probation for?
burglary of a motor vehicle.
Okay. Tell me, how long have you been where you're currently incarcerated?
I've been here at Elaine House for 4 years.
And before then, you were where?
In Angola.
So let's talk about, what you've done since your incarceration. Have you done any vocational education programs?
Yes, ma'am. I'm a ASC certified mechanic, NCCR, electrical level 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm a certified tutor. I teach guys the automotive trade. I'm a transition mentor. I teach pre-release classes. I teach other youth offenders about life skills, about making the right decisions and taking the right path in life.
Tell me what programs you've taken that have the most impact on you.
I've taken, anger management has had the most impact. I've taken substance abuse, anger management.
Wow.
Okay.
Why was anger management so meaningful for you?
Because anger management helped me to recognize that anger is a normal feeling, but it's how I react to the anger is which make things better. I was able to learn tools to identify different triggers, and when I get angry, how to handle them, how to assess them.
How did anger play a role in the farming community?
It played a big role because vengeance was not mine to take. It was for God, and that was the whole role to it.
I see that you took victim awareness.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about that, when you learned about that.
I learned about how grave of an impact that it has for a victim to lose someone they love, and them not being able to return to them. And that's not something that I want to ever be a part of, is taking someone away from someone else that they love.
One of the things that I thought about as I was reading your file was just the to be bound and laying there having one person shot and then knowing that you're the next person and the next person, and knowing that their lives are about to come to an end is the most, horrific thing that I can imagine a person having to experience. What do you think it was or is in you that would have allowed that degree of cruelty? Because that was extremely cruel. So what do you think it was in you that allowed you to have so much cruelty towards these people?
I think it was anger. Man. God was trying to show me something at the beginning of 2000, which I didn't recognize. He was telling me to change my life. I had been robbed 3 different times that year, and this was the last robbery that had took place. So God was trying to show me that I needed to change my lifestyle. And I just didn't take heed to it.
How much has been taken from you in this robbery?
Drugs and $10,000.
So in the transitional mentoring program, what do you, in light of your own circumstances, what do you tell these young men?
I tell these young men that they need to get educated, stay away from drugs and alcohol because they lead to a road of destruction. You get educated, you put yourself in a better opportunity to provide yourself and your family with the things you need instead of having to resort back to the things that you once trusted in.
Tell me about the substance abuse programs you've taken.
Substance abuse. We talk about drugs of choice, about going to meetings, getting a sponsor, about communicating. That's one of the biggest things is communicating amongst other addicts, talking about your problems, getting them out in the air and getting other advice, even calling the sponsor whenever you feel like you want to use, you have an avenue. Plus you have family support and support from the church as well.
I guess I wanted to know, what did you learn about your own drug use?
Man, I'm an addict in recovery. I've been sober now for 21 years, and I know that I can never use again, but in order to stay on that track, I need support from my family, my sponsor, group NA meetings, things like that.
Were you actually a drug user, or were you more a drug user?
I was both, man. I was both. I was a user.
What drugs did you use?
My drug of choice was PCP.
And how often would you use that?
Almost every day.
Because typically someone who's involved in serious drug dealing, kind of don't use themselves. So I'm not sure if I buy your addiction part of the equation. I think, just from the nature of the crime, it seems like you were more into the dealing aspect of it.
Well, I was dealing cocaine, so I didn't use the cocaine. That's probably why.
In 2017, you had a write-up for contraband. What could you tell us about that?
Yes, ma'am. I had a cell phone, very irresponsible action of mine. I should have never had it.
How did you get the cell phone, and why did you have it?
I had retreated from a friend of mine to call home and call friends. It was more convenient, but it was irresponsible behavior. I shouldn't have never had it.
How many write-ups have you had over the last 21 years?
5.
Now, the last one being in 2017 yourself, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Who's in the room with you? Or is there anyone at Hunt that can give us some information about Mr. Winfree?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Go ahead.
This is Deputy Warden Russ. Winfrey is a minimum trustee offender, working at our AS&R, working on vehicles. He is a trustee. He has completed, he has 412 days in CTRP credits. He's been here since 2018. He has not had any disciplinary reports since being here. His work assessment, his supervisors on his work site have all given him positive comments on his work ethic and his work productivity. They also commented that his attitude, his work ethic and his attitude is great. And on his assessment, he has a low Tiger risk score.
All right, thank you, Warden. I appreciate your input.
You're welcome.
Mr. Rambo, that's all I have.
We do have some speakers on your behalf. Ms. Lehman, I assume you want to go last after Mr. Winfree speaks. Ms. Clara Winfree. Ms. Winfree, if you would please introduce yourself and tell us what you'd like us to know about your brother.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. You're very well.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Clara Winfree, and I'm the second oldest sister of Charles Winfree. And Charles' faith in God is very strong. Every time we talk about God, Chuck talk about how God has changed his life. And in life, we make bad choices, we make good choices. No one is perfect. The only perfect person is Jesus Christ. Once Chuck is released, we have a lot of different ministries at our church. We have a prison ministry. We have what you call a rites of passage ministry. That's where you teach young men how to become a man through the word of God. Also, sometimes, we need just a little guidance. Our father, he left us at an early age. So our mom had to raise us, by herself. And she done she done the best she can do. And it's hard for a woman to try and raise a man. And I tell Chuck all the time, you must never lose hope about the situation that you're in right now, because one day it will be over. And I told him, you'll look back over your life and say, God has brought you from a mighty, mighty long way. I love my brother, and he have his family support on this. Thank you all for allowing me to speak on Charles Winfree's behalf.
Thank you very much, Ms. Winfree. Mr. James Jackson, Sr.
Yes, sir. How you doing?
We're doing very well. Thank you, sir. What would you like to tell us?
First of all, I'd like to say good morning to all y'all. And I would like to give honor of God the blessing for us to see this day. And I send special prayers to the families that's still in mourn. And I never stop praying for them. But in God's book, we're all family. It was senseless, it was wrong. And my brother, there's no way to say it wasn't wrong, because what happened, and it shouldn't have happened. And that's how I want to start before I get off, just to let the families know we are true in mourning. I mean, I'm a father of 4. I couldn't imagine something happening to my children and not being able to part of their life anymore. So I do. But since my brother has been incarcerated, he has truly been reformed. After receiving that much time, you would think he would fall to crime and murder because that is what happens in a prison. But instead, he leaned on God and how our mamas raised us, how he mentioned. We would be at church every Sunday from 8 to 3:30 p.m. and sometimes, 2:30 p.m. and sometimes back at 3:30. Our mother was a truly loving God. My father died when I was 9. His father passed when he was born. And she wanted us to have a strong relationship with God. While in prison, our relationship never changed. The first years was rough, but then we picked off where we left off at. Since he's been incarcerated, he has trained, he has schooled, he became a certified mechanic. He can work on any motor from a weed eater to a turbine that runs electricity. We all use and cars that we all drive. And you can name someone, might even yourself, that might need a mechanic right now. So I know he will be productive and active on the right thing. He has a loving family that will stand behind him like never before, including his brother, his sisters, his nieces and nephews, and including me, his best friend, his brother, who has truly missed him the most. Because of him, I'm here right now. From kids to grown man, he's always protecting me and giving me guidance. He gave me brother guidance. He gave me father guidance. He even gave me husband guidance. There were times in my life that was bad, and I didn't want to live anymore. And he stopped it from happening. From in there, he helped me get my focus back in Christ and made me love myself again. From in there, if that's not a change, then what is? I thank you, Lord, for your time, and I'm praying that you give my brother, their uncle, their cousins, and his friends or family to see him on the outside again, outside of those walls. And once again, I just had to speak to the family. I know y'all got the letter that I wrote and show that there is remorse, and we are sorry, and we do feel pain. And it has been pain on our side too, because when everyone else was gone, it was just me and him. I made it through high school after our mom passed. I was in the 10th grade. When Charles left, the first time he was incarcerated, she was okay. He come out, she's sick. I mean, there was a lot that transformed in our life that I know I don't have enough time to speak on everything. But one thing I can truly say is that he is a different person, and he has become a better person. And because of him, I am a better person. I love you, brother. I love y'all, and I appreciate all the support from everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. We appreciate your comments. Mr. Greg Winfree. Winfree, are you there?
Hello.
Mr. Winfree, can you hear us?
Yes, sir. I can hear you now.
We can hear you as well. So tell us what you'd like us to know about your brother.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Gregory Winfree. I'm Charles's oldest brother. He's probably 5 or 6 years younger than me. And I just want to say, I love and miss my brother a lot. And I'm sorry that he put himself in this situation here, but just as my brother was saying, over the years, from going back and forth to Angola, because he was there a pretty good while, we would go a lot and visit at the rodeos and talk to him at visitation and things like that. I mean, he's I can see it from the little brother that I knew, you know, from back then to now, that a lot has changed in him and that he is remorseful, just like he said. I mean, he said it to me before, and I can say you can't take back what he done, but you know, there's no way to do that. But I mean, I'm just asking that someone sees in their heart to, you know, one day give him a chance back at freedom so he can at least right some of the wrongs that have taken place. And I mean, as far as if he's released, as far as his housing situation, we've talked to the parole people. He's supposed to parole to my address. And as far as a job, we have a landscape maintenance, and we do all different types of landscaping. So I plan on employing him for a job to keep him busy, and like he said, keep him in AA meetings and support groups and around sub positive, because I mean, we all see what the negative can do, just being around the wrong people, the wrong crowd, the wrong anything. And like I said, I'm just praying that something will work out, that he will be able to get out. And thanks again for letting me speak.
Thank you very much, Mr. Winfree.
Mhm.
Now hear from the opposition, Mr. David Duhan.
How you doing? I'm David Duhan. I'm Kimberly Duhan Solver's younger brother. Actually, Kim was actually 2 years older than me. Kim was more like my mom, my best friend, and to lose her at the age of 18, that was very hard. Until today, it's still hard. I go through counseling still, because there's a lot that I can't get through, knowing that she's a person that I will never see another day in my life until I go meet her when I go to heaven. You know, so with the going for parole, you know, for me it's like you got a lighter sentence. Do your time. You have time to see your family, and you're still able to see them and everything. I cannot sit up there and call my sister. I still have my sister's phone number still locked up in my phone. You know, I go through stuff and look at it and wish one day I could call her, but I can't. I will never be able to call her again. You know, so you have the point where you can talk to your family, you there with your family and everything, you know. So do your time. We gave you a lighter sentence, which for me, I would have never even gave you that. You know, but you got it. Do your time. Get it over with. You know, I wouldn't dare give parole. I'm sorry, but that's just me, because I would never see my family again. And you have that opportunity. Thanks for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mr. Duhan. We appreciate your comments. Ms. Marcia Duhan.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you very well.
Okay, my name is Marcia Duhan. I'm Kimberly Solver Duhan's mother. And I would like to say to Charles Winfree, I took the death penalty off the table for you. I gave you something that you didn't give my daughter. I gave you a second chance to breathe life. You didn't give it to my daughter. You asked me specifically for 110 years. And I asked you, you sure you want 110 years? You say, yeah. So I expect you to spend them 110 years that you asked for. You want parole? 21 years, not enough of time for you to deserve from killing 4 people. You took 4 people's lives for nothing. Your family can come see you, talk to you. None of us can go see none of ours. Jack, my daughter, the other victim, their parents or family can't go see them. You took something from us, and you still got a chance to breathe life.
Ms. Duhan, would just address your comments to the board and not to Mr. Winfree himself.
Okay. I expect he asked me for 110 years. I gave him that. That's what he wanted. So I expect for him to serve 110 years. He took something from me. He took my daughter, the only daughter I had, my grandbaby, my first grandbaby. He took that. I would never be able to get that back from him. He destroyed my world. And spending 21, maybe 22 years, it's not enough time from taking 4 people's lives. And then a grandbaby I never had a chance to see. And yes, he's doing a good deed in prison, teaching other inmates other things. That's good. Now he can do positive in prison. He couldn't do it out in the free world. He have a chance to do it in prison. And I expect for him to do his 110 years that he asked for. I took the death penalty off the line for him. He didn't give my daughter that. He took her life without any doubt. And they want to say drugs. It wasn't about he was on drugs. He had a choice. He had the gun in his hand. They had tied them down like some dogs and shot them in the back of their head. My daughter specifically begged for her life, and he still shot her. And I turned around and took the death penalty out for him after he took something from me. So I expect for him to spend that 110 years in prison. He don't know the pain I go through.
Thank you, Ms. Hunt, for your comments. We do appreciate your comments. We understand what you.
Okay.
Mr. Winfree, is there anything you'd like to say before your attorney wraps it up for us?
Yes, sir. So I cannot right the wrong that I've done in the past. I want to apologize to Ms. Duhan, the Salver family, the Robinson family, for my actions. I'm truly sorry. I pray that if the board will allow me another opportunity, that my life will not be lived unto myself upon release, but my life will be a sacrifice to others, and I will show the same mercy and compassion to others that the parole board has shown me. And I thank you all for giving me an opportunity to speak, and I thank you all for hearing the case.
Thank you, Mr. Winfree. Ms. Lehman, if you would.
Thank you, Judge Mirabella. Mr. Winfree fully admits his guilt for this horrific crime. And the board obviously needs to weigh the seriousness of the crime very heavily. But in relation to that, we also ask you to consider the truly exceptional nature of Mr. Winfree's rehabilitation, his support from senior correctional staff, and his genuine attempts to make amends, and his readiness and desire to give back to society productively. But I wanted to start by acknowledging the seriousness of the crime. I have known Mr. Winfree for a little over 20 years. When I was a young lawyer right out of law school, I helped out with his case, and I've been able to stay in touch, and I've been able to watch him grow as a person, and it is a privilege to address the board on his behalf. He has worked hard and participated in many, many programs at the DOC, but I think the most notable has been his role as mentor in the reentry and rehabilitation program at Angola, and then his reprisal of that at Elaine Hunt at the warden's specific request that he helped start a similar program there. At both places, he was chosen for these roles because of his strong technical abilities, yes, but also for what they saw then of his moral character, because he was acting as an example to the individuals he mentors. His desires to make amends to the families of the victims is real, though obviously he knows he can never undo what he has done. He has been able to meet Ms. Duhan in person. She has granted him that gift, and it has been very meaningful for him to be able to apologize to her. He has also reached out to Ms. Katrina Chambers. She is the sister of Jack Sarver and the daughter of Harold Sarver Sr. And they are actually scheduled to speak directly with each other later this month under the auspices of the Crime Victim Services Bureau at Ms. Chambers' request. Ms. Chambers, as the board knows, via her letter, supports his application for parole, and Mr. Winfree is beyond grateful for that. Finally, I've had the privilege of meeting some of Mr. Winfree's family, and more of them wanted to participate today than Zoom could accommodate. But he has tremendous family support. If he is granted parole at some point, he will go back to an extended loving family that his 5 brothers and sisters, his nieces and nephews, his 2 children, Jatori and Precious, and they have many plans to keep him very busy with jobs, with prison ministries, as his sister Claire mentioned, etc. And he also has indicated a strong interest in being involved in reentry work. I ask the board to grant him release with any conditions it deems appropriate, acknowledging the seriousness of the crime, which cannot be denied, but also in light of the exceptional evidence of rehabilitation and the support in the letters you will have seen from very senior, experienced correctional staff who have known Mr. Winfree for years and who believe in him. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ms. Jackson.
Mr. Winfree, I acknowledge that you've done a lot of good things while you were incarcerated, and you should be commended for that. But when I look at the fact that 4 people were brutally murdered, a pregnant woman and her unborn child, and 3 other people, and the fact that you've only served 21 years for this crime, I cannot in good conscience say that today I can vote to release you. There was a plea agreement in your case, and I think there has to be some consideration given to that, because you could truly have been on death row as we speak right now. But through the grace, if you will, of the victim's family, you were allowed to not have to face that even as a possibility in your case. You've done a lot of good things, and I hope you'll continue to do a lot of good things while you're incarcerated. But because of the strong victim opposition, the nature of the crime, and the insufficient amount of time I've served in light of the seriousness of the crime, my vote today is to deny your request for parole.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Wise.
For the reasons already stated on the record, my vote is the same.
Thank you, Ms. Wise. Mr. Winfree, you have done some tremendous things while you've been in prison. There's no question about it. And while it's true, the facts of the case are one factor that we take into account. The facts of this case were as bad as any we've ever seen. All murders are horrible, but this was tremendously horrible, if you will. There is victim opposition. There was a plea agreement. You did agree to that. I do understand the laws change, and you have a right to exercise your legal rights. And certainly you are legally before us. I do believe at some point, if I'm still on this board, I'm likely to vote to let you out. Today is just not that day. You've done some wonderful things. You talk about your life has changed, and you have meaning to your life. You are really in a position right now to help a lot of people. And it sounds like you are. I mean, all of the wonderful words that were spoken of you by the wardens, by all of the prison staff, speak to what you have accomplished and how you've helped other people. Right now, I believe maybe that's God's plan for you, to be where you are right now, to help and continue to help. I hope this isn't a tremendous disappointment for you, because I want you to continue to do the things that you're doing. And hopefully in the future, you come back before us or a different panel, the verdict might be a little different. But today, the vote is 3 votes to deny your parole. Your parole has been denied, but continue to do and continue to help the people that you're helping right now. So good luck to us.
Okay, thank you.
You can't make it up. You just can't make it up. The idea that he has this attorney, that he has all these people that are saying, let him out, let him out. Look at all the lives that he's taken. It's like, hello, do you understand? What world are we living in? Make it make sense, because it doesn't make any sense. We're talking about someone who at 23 years of age went into a home with, I believe it was 3 other men. We'll go over, there's no court appeal documents because he took a plea deal, but there are some news articles, not as much as you might think though. And they don't have a lot of information, but we'll go over it. He has buddies there. They storm the house. He claims, oh, the guy gave me the gun. They're tied up. They're tied to chairs. Their hands behind their backs. They're terrified. And he just pulls it out and boom, boom, boom. And there was, I know Miss Jackson was she said there was 4 in the baby. It was 3 that were killed, plus the baby in the womb. And then there was a 4th that he shot in the face. And that man pretended to be dead, but he survived. So he shot 4 people, including a pregnant woman, because he was angry. He was angry. And then he shows up to parole and wants to be let out 100 years early. And then it's like they're just tone deaf, the family. They talk about how they miss him and how they're suffering and how they haven't been able to see them, their brother. No one is perfect except for Jesus, they say at the parole hearing. What, man? No one is perfect? No, thank you so much. I didn't know that no one was perfect. But how many people shoot 4 defenseless young people tied up to a chair because they were mad? You know the other family's watching. How can you say those things when they come on and they said it great? Was it the brother of the sister? I still keep her number in my phone. I can't visit her. I can't talk to her. You can still visit and talk to him. And you're trying to make it like a sob story about yourself. You're trying to bring Jesus into the conversation because people make mistakes. I don't understand it. It's just an insult. I think Miss Jackson said it best. One of them in support said, it's been pain on our side too. And it's like, how can you say it's pain on our side too? You know, their family seems to show so much grace. They don't go after the ultimate punishment. They agreed to a plea deal, and they didn't have to. His co-defendants all took deals before him. His co-defendants didn't pull the trigger. They were probably as mortified as anyone else when they saw what happened. I'm just guessing, I don't know. But they all turned state evidence, and they all signed deals, and he hadn't. And he was set for trial. And the family took a plea deal. And they would have won the trial because it would have been an easy trial. As Ms. Jackson said, he'd be sitting on death row right now. And what does he do to repay the favor? He goes for parole 100 years early, something like 22 years into his sentence. They would never grant him even if he took one life. They might, we've seen it, but typically they like to wait 25 years, and he still puts them through this now? How is that showing remorse? How is that showing any empathy? How is that showing that you're deserving of getting parole? And an attorney, a seasoned, experienced attorney, at what point do you draw a line in the sand and say, you know what, it's a good thing to be an attorney, to represent? That's the way the system works. But maybe it's not a good thing to show up 22 years into a 120-year sentence when you took all those lives. Maybe it's not a good thing to show up and say, get out early. Maybe now's not the time. Maybe good advice to your client would have been, I get that you want to go out, but now's not the time. This isn't the way it should be. Let's wait. I don't know, a number. Give a different number. It's clearly too early. Like, do you have no respect for the victims? Do you have no shame? Was it, she said, an honor or something, or to get up and defend? Why? What if he is an angel now? What if he is totally the most amazing guy in the world, the best in prison? Everything is authentic, and he's going to go out there and do amazing things. Still, you don't get out this early, not if the victims don't want it. So why? Why would you get up here in the parole board and do that? Where's the respect for other human dignity? Like, for other human lives? Where is it? Is this, am I nuts? Now, the act that was passed to even allow him, because his sentence was parole without, what was 120 years without the possibility of parole. And I'm not 100% sure which act it was. If it was, I took a look if it is it 522, or because it's manslaughter, so they're saying that they changed the mandatory sentences on it, and that could be what the act was. But there have been different acts that have passed that have created these situations that allow for parole. So here it says 2 of the 4 defendants take a plea bargain in the triple homicide. 2 men charged with, I hate these videos, like, come on, really? Here it is. Pled guilty Tuesday to 3 counts and agreed to testify against the alleged triggerman, Charles Winfree. Winfree is the only man indicted in the case who has not pleaded guilty to reduced charges. A 4th defendant pleaded guilty to manslaughter last summer. They killed 23-year-old Harold Server, his pregnant wife, Kimberly, at 20 years old, Herbert Charles Robinson, 38. They say because of a drug deal that went through. All 4 defendants originally were charged with 3 counts of first-degree homicide, which can be punished by the ultimate punishment. as well as 1 count of first-degree feticide and 1 attempted first-degree. A third man was shot in the face, was only slightly hurt. I don't know how you can get shot in the face and be slightly hurt. I love it. You know, you read these things, something you ever read like these articles, and you can tell that it's like someone who, you know, you might be an expert in the field or very knowledgeable in the field, and you see written in the newspaper, whatever they use. It's like, come on, you know, like have slightly, really? You want to use the word slightly hurt? Shot in the face, he's slightly hurt. Okay. The murder charges were manslaughter. It carries a maximum sentence of 40 years of hard labor. Prosecutors dropped the other 2 charges against Turner Smith, who pled guilty. And here's now, this is a little bit later. This is December 16th. That article was written on March 25th, 2003. This is December 16th, 2003. And that's when they said he was supposed to stand trial in January, so just the next month. And he was facing first degree. And he took the plea agreement. He pled guilty to first, right? After hearing statements from 2 of the victims and apologies from Winfree and the victim's family, he was sentenced to a total of 110 years in prison without the possibility of parole, probation, or suspension. But as we know, the law has changed, and he is having his first parole hearing, and now he's going to keep applying. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure because it's confusing to me. It's not clear. Is it every 5 years? Is it every 2 years? I think he can apply every 2 years. I'm pretty certain of that. So, oh, I forgot. Thank you, Claire, for sending me this hearing. Claire's been on a roll recently, sending hearings that we should take a look at. She said, Mandy, you have to see this. And she is right every time so far, but here it is. You might not believe it if you didn't see it, but we just did. And that's why we do this. And with that, I'll let you